I'm Chris Barker, you're with musicradar.com, and I'm here with the legend that is Boy George. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good. So, it can't be your first time in the top 100, is it?
No, but it's been a while. I'm lower than I was last year, but I really had to compete with lots of people with millions of fans. You know, I mean, I don't have a Facebook profile. That's, you know, I've got 5,000 followers on there. Twitter, if I was allowed to go through Twitter, that's another story. But the Facebook thing really restricted it this year, so you had to get more votes. So you really had to work. Because I mean, if someone like David Guetta's got 24 million, and that's the starting point, you know what you're up against. You know.
So is it still important to you?
Well, I think it's probably in the last couple of years. You know, I've kind of, you know, really been focusing on my work. You know, I've got a bit of a renewed passion for what I do.
I mean, we've seen that you're back in the limelight, especially in electronic music. You've really come forward in that.
I mean, I've always kind of done it, and I haven't ever been away. But I suppose, you know, I don't know. I suppose for a while I was fucking around a bit.
Okay, so
and now I feel like I just feel like, you know what? I don't know, I just feel like very passionate about it again, and I feel like there's work to be done, and I feel like I have something to say, you know, and I know some people really get pissed off that I do what I do, but, you know, some people like it.
So let's talk about that renewed passion and sort of the new Boy George daily routine in terms of electronic music and DJing. Like, how's that changed now then? What's your?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I've always DJed, you know, but I've never stopped working. But I suppose I've been a little bit under the radar, you know, and I suppose in the last couple of years, you know, I've started VG Records. I've started working with lots more people. I've done some stuff with Harry Choo Choo. I'm talking with Roger Sanchez about doing stuff, just kind of making a bit more of an effort to kind of go out there and actually do what I do, because, you know, I'm a songwriter. My thing is kind of top line melodies, vocals. You know, everybody's talking at the moment about a 90s house revival, which is perfect for me because I like singers, you know.
Well, I mean, we heard that kind of sound, especially on the remixes of the Ronson stuff you did.
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that we can expect to hear more of, that kind of sort of dipping the house into more pianos and vocals?
Well, I just think it's sort of, you know, dance music, it sort of goes around in circles, doesn't it? I mean, like, you know, what was really nice about tonight, I think, was, you know, because at the moment, you know, I mean, I travel around the world a lot, and the audience, you know, when anything gets really popular, the audience starts to dictate the art form, which is a disaster. And it's kind of reflected in our culture with things like X Factor, you know, push a button and decide who's going to be famous. And, you know, I think if the audience is always allowed to kind of decide what gets played, great things don't happen. You know, new things don't come out. You know, that's democracy for me. And so you know, when I play, I don't want it. I'm not a fucking jukebox. You know, so more. You know, what I was saying earlier to people was like the gulf between what's naff and cool has really definitely been kind of narrowed down. And certain people have put their coats down to let people cross. You know.
So how do you find what's cool? I mean, like now, because the game's changing. Everybody can get any music ever now.
Yeah. But you know, the thing is, I think a lot of it is kind of these DJs who want to be pop stars, not the pop stars who DJ. It's the other way around that's the problem.
So, but tell us how Boy George finds his music.
Well, the thing is, for me, you see, because I've been in a pop environment, I wrote Karma Chameleon, so I have to really watch what I do dance-wise. I can't just kind of go out there and, you know, do fromage. You know, and also that's not the kind of dance I like. You know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being commercial. I think Avicii, for me, kind of, he just knows how to kind of bridge that gap between being really commercial and being cool. He's one of the few people, I think, of the new breed that I think just kind of has it nailed. You know, there's something black about what he does, and I like that. And I don't know, how do I buy my music? I mean, I think nowadays you have to be a bit more pioneering because, you know, there aren't that many places. The record shops don't exist anymore. You used to be able to go around the country everywhere, and when you were DJing in Bristol or Birmingham or Manchester, you knew that there was one place you could go and they knew what you played, or they had a rough idea of what you played, and they kind of they prepare stuff for you, you know, make you feel special. You know? Got this great bootleg for they give to everyone, you know, of course. But you know, that kind of thing doesn't exist. So you have to work harder. You know, you have to kind of rely on people, hunt around. If I hear something now, I will go and find it. You know, like for example, tonight I opened with that Nelsky track, you know, Nondescript, which I heard on the radio and I was like, I've got to have this. It's fantastic. You know, it's just everything I like about a pop record.
So tell us about, I mean, we're from kind of a technical website as well. I mean, in terms of, you say you're a songwriter and that kind of side. I mean, when it comes to electronic music, do you fiddle around on laptops and that kind of stuff?
What I do, I work with, like for example, Kinky Roland, who is very technical. I'm not technical, I'm emotional. But you know what? You can't live without us. Us emotional people, we give you the heart and soul. So we're important, you know. And I think it's really important to kind of, I love technology. You know, I love working with kind of musicians. And, you know, and this kind of idea that, you know, electronic music's kind of easy, it's not, you know. You can work and work and work, and maybe only one of the tracks that you do will kind of make a difference or get through. Because it's not a science. Everybody thinks it is, and everybody tries to make the same fucking record. And it isn't a science, you know. You've still got to have some musicality. You've still got to have something to make a great record, you know. I mean, there are exceptions. We can all agree on that. Like, how the heck was it? But whatever, you know, I think generally, for something that's going to stay around, you know, there's a difference between like a record that's a hit and a record that you're going to be remixing in 20 years, like Show Me Love. You know, or whatever it may be. You know, there's only a handful of records that just keep coming back, you know.
So, I
didn't ask your question.
No, you said you work with other people. That's your technical. I mean, how do you find these other people? I mean, you know, are you the Madonna of dance music, picking these people from the underground?
No, I've never been like that. I work with people that I've known for a long time. Kinky Roland, Mark Vido. I work with Mark, we run VG Records together. And, you know, Mark has really only in the last couple of years kind of got into kind of building tracks. And what happens is, you know, he'll do a track, for, you know, either with someone else or on his own. I'll hear it and I'll kind of live with it and I'll kind of work out what I think should go over the top of it or whether it needs anything. Sometimes I'll...
Like an executive producer almost?
Well, say, what can I add to this track? You know, because, you know, some dance tracks are musical and some aren't. You know, but that doesn't mean they're not good. You know, some dance tracks need to be instrumental. Some dance tracks you think, there's no point in singing on this, it doesn't need it. But sometimes you think, oh man, this great melody. And then finding a singer, that's the fun. You know, like finding someone that you think, we need someone who's a bit folky for this. You know, kind of breaking the rules a bit and not doing what's obvious, you know. And also being inspired by people whose records you like. You know, there's a lot of people that I really love their records. Like,
tell me these people.
David Penn, for example, I think is just nails it at the moment. Everything he does, he really knows how to work with vocals. You know, because I'm a singer, I notice when people know, because a lot of remixers can't work with chords. They're really restricted. They can come up with a great bass line and a great beat, but when it comes to singing, they're like out of their depth. So that's why a lot of them don't use vocals. It's like, I've just used a bit of the chorus. People like Supernova, you know, John Dalbeck, you know, those sorts of people, they just kind of, you know, they've got that kind of cool thing, but also a kind of slightly poppy quality as well.
So, Boy George, the producer, is kind of the guy leading things in the background. I'm sort of trying to like.
Well, you know,
I mean, you don't have your hand on the mouse. You're not playing the keyboards. You're the guy saying.
I'm actually at the moment learning to play piano and learning guitar.
Right. Okay.
At 50, I should have done it years ago.
How's it going?
It's going good. It's daunting, but it's exciting. I'm really in this kind of the moment. I'm really trying to learn things, languages. You know, I'm just trying to kind of work on actually having a bit of education, which I've denied myself for many years.
Do you worry though? I mean, we have this with the magazine a lot where you worry about knowing too much about music. It might kind of ruin, because sometimes it can ruin. You can become that kind of perfectionist guy that doesn't get stuff done, and you know.
Well, no, I think, as I said earlier, I'm very emotional. I'm all about the feeling. You know, when I work with singers, my thing is like, you're not singing rhubarb here. You know, you think about what you're singing, because you know there are people out there with amazing voices, but they don't know how to translate songs, and there are equally people out there with kind of very great voices. You know, there are people that don't really sing, but they know how to fucking nail a song. You know, and do you know what I mean? And I prefer those sorts of people. You know.
And what about lyrics? I mean, is this?
Oh, lyrics is that's my thing. Yeah. Lyrics
in dance music, how important do you find lyrics?
I think they are important. Yeah, I think that, you know, if you're in a club and you hear something really inspiring, you know, I mean, you know, all the cliches, but they do work. You know, like, Promised Land and, I don't know, Peace in the Valley, all those things. They're kind of, if you're...
So how do you be original with lyrics, though? Because let's talk about the songwriting aspect in dance music, because we have a lot of people, readers, who, they're stuck in those cliches. How do you create the next cliche?
Well, I mean, like, for example, the track I played tonight, which is called I Tried, I mean, it's a love song, but I've kind of, I read a lot of poetry, I read a lot of books. I think reading is really important for broadening your vocabulary, for kind of, because you can paraphrase things. For example, on this particular track, I used some kind of ideas from Rumi, this kind of Indian poet, and I kind of just paraphrased something that he said, one day I'll be a lover like you, which is a great line, Stay in my arms tonight, one day I'll be a lover like you. It's very romantic.
So it's about bringing those influences outside of dance music and sort of...
kind of, bringing in kind of spiritual ideas, and kind of positivity, I think you can do dance music that kind of has something to say. It doesn't always have to be like party in the club. That's never been my thing. I've never been one of these like raise your hands. I've tried, but I've never quite nailed that. Sort of let's all go down the club. It doesn't do it for me.
And let's just quickly talk about technical as a DJ. I mean, what's your DJ setup now? What's your on your rider?
US Bieber. I'm a US Bieber, and that's a pretty recent thing, only a few months. But
record box or just tracks on a USB?
Record box, but I just play off the USB. Yeah, I mean, I use the record box to kind of file, iTunes and record box to kind of file everything, and actually it's quite good because it kind of makes you really look at what you're playing. And I think you have to now anyway. You can't wing it as much as anymore because it's sort of, you have to kind of be organised. And I think that's a new thing for me. Sometimes in the past I never know what the fuck was in my record box. I scribble on things, and now I kind of know where everything is.
Do you find you have to be more eclectic now with the audience? Or you're allowed to be more eclectic?
I actually feel like I need to be more, which is why I kind of drop sort of electro tracks and things like that, because people love them. They don't know they're going to love them, but they do once they hear them. They love them.
Well, and your collaborations you mentioned, like Chuchu Romero and maybe Sanchez, it's maybe a little bit outside of what people know you for.
Yeah, I mean, but it's kind of fine. I've done this track with Harry Chuchu. Well, I'm not singing on it. I wrote the song, and this guy called John Gibbons is singing, and it's so great. I love it. I got this track, and I was like, Sylvester, got to do something like this kind of stuff. It's quite electro. But what he's done with it is amazing. It's so exciting to get it back. It's coming out soon, hopefully on Subliminal also.
Soon before Christmas soon?
Probably not before Christmas, but I know we've signed the deal. But that doesn't mean anything, does it? 10 years from now. But no, it was really good. It's really good when you get... Because, it's quite hit and miss with dance remixing, and, you pay people. There are some people out there that they're going to deliver, but they kind of do the same thing for everybody. And the trick is a bit like kind of artists. It's a bit like buying them while they're kind of on the boil, because people do become stuck in a rut, and that's the challenge, isn't it? I suppose that you've got to work with fresh, exciting people. Twitter's really good. Facebook's really good for kind of hearing. People say, "Oh, I've got a new track out on SoundCloud," and
so you're quite on it in terms of that kind of side.
Said to me the other day, I've done this sort of this track that you probably won't like it, and actually I ended up playing it on Saturday. The audience didn't. They're a little bit shocked. It's a kind of dubsteppy thing, but I liked it. I thought it's really, really well done. So I thought, fuck it, I'll drop it. I was having a bad gig in Switzerland, and they weren't really. I could have played anything, they wouldn't have cared. So I thought, fuck it, I'm just going to play it.
That's what you got to do, though. You're not a jukebox, like exactly like you said.
Absolutely, and I think it used to be more like that. And I got into house music when it was Danny Ramplin and early Oakenfold and Acid House, and you'd hear fucking Phil Collins records in clubs. You'd hear like Can't Hurry Love by the Supremes. It's some mental things like you'd be in Amnesia, and suddenly someone would play the Wooden Tops. So I just think that's kind of where my sort of beginnings are. So that eclectic thing is in my blood. I can't get rid of it.
So you mentioned Avicii already, but have you got any other guys that you like, the new generation, the guys that are just laptop producers?
I don't really know, I have to say. I met Avicii on a plane, so that's how I know who he is. I was like, who are you? I've got some of your records. But I mean, I look at the chart and it's like, I mean, it's amazing that I'm in it. I'm a fucking old man. I'm determined.
So you happy with the chart, the way it's turned out?
Yeah, well, if you turn it upside down, I'm actually number 10. Which really pissed people off, because there was a few people there's some really funny people on Twitter really moaning. I was like, come on, you can't seriously begrudge me being 90. Get a grip, you know what I mean? All these kind of weird people. But I was reminding them that if they turned it around, I was actually number 10.
So next year you're going to be higher, and this new George focus.
Well, if they let Twitter fans, instead of if it's just Facebook, then it's going to be the same old slog. I'll probably be in the same position. But
Twitter.
Yeah, but Twitter would be good. I don't think they should restrict it, because my mum hasn't got a Facebook account, and she voted for me. I actually made her open one.
Boy George, thank you very much. It was great to interview you. Thank